Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jimmy, and today we'll be discussing my latest film, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. I'm joined by my mates, Shea and Adriana, and I'm trying to appease old Nick in today's episode. Sit on down and turn on the telly. And how was that?
How's
How's
that?
that?
There you go. Thanks for indulging me on this one.
How's that? Oh man,
How's that? Well,
Jimmy,
here we are.
it's great to have you.
Yeah, Jimmy,
thank
you, thank you.
unbelievable. We're so glad to have you here, Jimmy. This is a true honor. Let's just say, if you're one of Jimmy's fingers, buddy, you're definitely the thumb, and I say that with love.
That's good. That's good. I was worried. As long as I'm not any. Actually, I was going to say that's another spoiler. As long as I'm not redacted all that information. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this first chunk as always spoiler free, and then we'll dive into the details. But I guess to kick that part off, mine are going to be short and to the point. Go see the movie. If you haven't seen the movie last year, go see last year's 28 Years Later before you go. I would say for this one, you don't need to see either of the other two for sure, but it's good to know at least 28 days later and then 28 years later. You can skip 28 weeks later as far as I'm concerned. But yes, this is it is unseated primate for the best new movie of the year for me. In this
there's a pretty high bar to clear, honestly. I left primate pretty jazzed, and I left this movie pretty jazzed as well. Without repeating Shea, I would say controversially, it's a great movie, by all means, phenomenal, but I don't think I liked it as much as 28 Years Later. So if you want to hear more about that discourse, please stick around because we'll get into it.
Well, maybe not controversial because I feel
I don't know if that's controversial at all. Actually,
it is counter. No, I will say it is counter to both the Rotten Tomatoes score and the Letterboxd score currently. Currently, this is higher on Letterboxd, and it definitely is not going to change on the critic one. But
I think give it time. I feel like
more people need to see it. It didn't. It'll fall.
It'll fail in time.
But yes, I agree with you completely, and we'll get into the details on the spoiler side of that.
Yeah,
but yes, I agree.
I was worried you guys would both come in being like, what a great film. It tops the last one. Totally amazing. And I was hoping to be the contrarian, to be like, yeah, no, it was great. It was fine. But if I gave the last one a 4 on Letterboxd, I'm struggling to rate this one on equal footing. They're both a 4 at least in my mind. Like, they're both great. I loved both. On the Heartometer, I loved both. I recommend it to a lot of people. But yeah, it definitely doesn't hit some of the highs. And I think, like, to start off like a spoiler-free discussion that's not, too plot-heavy, I think visually the first one, 28 Years Later, was so much stronger. Like, they did so much more to really, like, feast your eyes. And then this one, it felt a little more procedural at times. Like, there's some beautiful shots, but I was never seeing like an iPhone rigged up through like broken glass or like, doing the 360, they called it like budget matrix shots, So this one definitely felt way more of like a drama during a zombie apocalypse, or the last one at least started with very zombie apocalypse heavy intro into the world 28 years later. And now that it's been established, they're kind of like, yeah, you like the last movie? Let's just pick up right where we left off on last year's episode. Like, felt like
it's
July now it's picking back up.
Definitely missing the Danny Boyle visual distinctiveness, because this one was directed by Nia Costa, so not the same director, and you can tell. But for my part, my sort of high level thoughts, I think, I don't know, I just love what they're doing with these movies and like the world that they're building, and I'm still very floored that a years later legacy sequel that no one asked for is in many ways almost prefer these movies to it's been a long time since I watched 28 Days Later, but it in some ways kind of prefer them to the first movie. I don't know. I just think they're very fun. They're weird, kind of moving at times, so you get a bit of everything. So yeah, go see it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, my hope with the like what you were saying was comparatively like in the 2020s that we're living in the mid 2020s. Now we're closer to 2030 than we are 2020. Uh, the way the zombie franchise and the zombie like IPs and stuff have become really boring. Like obviously the fatigue from zombies, like Walking Dead style and all that. The first movie of 28 Days Later was so seminal and important when it came out. Like it really set the bar for like modern zombies, introduced like the fast zombie, which we then saw echoed in like the new Dawn of the Dead with Zack Snyder a couple years later and all that. I think if anything, the 28 years pickup installment franchise entries are going to inspire this approach where it's like we've seen soul survivor zombie stuff, but like let's just do like kind of more slice of life big character stories in the middle of like the backdrop being the zombies. And you know, I say that and I think that's exactly why I complained about like season 2 of The Walking Dead, where it was like they're stuck in a farmhouse for 10 episodes and like you see a zombie every half hour being like, oh no, yeah, that's right, the world ended, you know. And people are the real bad guys. Like that messaging is really overdone, but here it's nice because they choose a story that is like really interesting and sick and sadistic and complex. So, you know, they're doing a lot of cliches really well, and I'm not knocking it for it, but I hope like the first 28 weeks later, 28 days later, this kind of inspires a new trend of like, here's something you've seen 1,000 times, a la zombies, you know, but let's do like a different story. So we're not just focusing on like the brutality and the like we're just going to go with a different direction and a set piece everyone in the cultural zeitgeist is familiar with. I think that's kind of maybe the optimistic inspiration for this storytelling that they're doing. Because yeah, I do think it's awesome. But yeah, I definitely like the first time around. I was like, well, having all the zombie action, it just disappears halfway through the movie, and this one doesn't like really have much of it. So not a knock, but it is a big departure for sure from traditional zombie fare.
Well, and I think that like this is without like I was firmly in the camp for last year with 28 years later. I'm like, why is this happening? I don't want this. I don't care. Like more IP, we got to get more things going and like prove me way wrong. Like like one of those cases of like a good example of this. And like again, 28 weeks later to me is like easily the lowest point. And I similar to you, Adriana, like I had big gaps. So I remember 28 days later really young, and then I never watched it again until I was getting ready for 28 years later last year. And it's really good, and I can understand like why it had such kind of like a permeation like an impact on everything else. But I think without question, as like a movie certainly that I'd revisit, I would much sooner rewatch 28 years later and Bone Temple again before I would really feel an urge to rewatch that one. So I think in my kind of, we'll maybe do a ranking list after the trilogy is complete, and we'll put it all together. But yeah, just to keep the spoiler free thoughts going a little bit, like I will say, not only did I feel like this was a visual downgrade for the most part, I want to like clarify that by saying I still think there's a lot more juice in here than most other movies, without question. It's just this like it's just so noticeable because 28 years later had like so much visual juice that it like anything less than that will feel kind of noticeable, but it still looks a lot better than most other things getting made, without question. But the one thing I will say that was gone from this movie compared to the last one for me was the impactful emotional core here. There was a moment in the first one, which I don't really want to spoil in this section either, just in case people haven't seen it. But there was a moment in the first one that I literally cried at, which, like, again, tell me that that was going to happen as I was going into that movie. I would have bet the farm that that wouldn't have been the case. And Ty just watched the first one because he hadn't seen either of them last night. and I could hear him sniffling in the room when that moment was happening. Like I could hear the score, so I knew what beat it was, and I could hear him crying too. And there was no moment that came even close for me really in this one, which is disappointing because we'll get to it in the spoilers, but there was a part where I thought I was ready for that, and I thought they could have done that, and they didn't. So again, we'll get into, because I think there's even theories and stuff to talk about there, but yeah, overall though, again, this, like, I had really high hopes for this, and I had a blast. Like, I was laughing again where it didn't have those emotional beats. It sure as fuck was incredibly fun. It was incredibly fun, and like so many moments where I was giggling and like my face almost hurt from just smiling for the whole runtime practically. Like, it was a hoot of a movie, but also really there was like a really tough scene. Again, we'll get into, but like it was great as in a movie experience. Like, I cannot say enough. I loved it too. So yeah, I think that's it for me on the spoiler free side. If anyone has anything else before we dig in.
No, let's dig in.
Yeah, let's spoil the movie.
I feel like at this point, the natural place to start is with Jimmy here. I will say this is probably, Jimmy's stuff is probably the thing that I'm most disappointed with, only because I wanted more. And there was a lot of, I don't even know actually how big of a gap it was, but there was a lot of, I know, like, debate about the end of 28 Years Later, where Jimmy appears in his final form, we'll say, and like that batshit craziness of that moment. Like, I loved it. I think I speak for Adriana and Sam on this too. Like, we thought that was hilarious. These guys dressing up all dressed like that with Power Ranger fighting styles. And I will say, with the change in director, I'm not sure why this happened, if there were other projects or what the considerations were, but I really feel like Danny Boyle not getting a chance to do the Jimmies was the big missing component here, because I just feel like there was, I like, it was good, there was great moments in it, but I felt like you could have given me 10 to 15 minutes more of the Jimmies sort of at a height of power and really terrorizing and trying to capture more of that energy. And like, I've seen an interview where Nia Costa said that was never going to be her movie, and that's, you know, totally fair. But it was just one of those things, when you take these movies back to back, like, we really do kind of just pick right up. And I have to admit, I felt a bit of like something missing from that, but like, it was still phenomenal. I wanted more. That was really my kind of gripe with it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. For me, I think it was kind of interesting, because the way the last movie ends, it's so over the top and so like hilariously absurd. Like, we were kind of laughing and, like, you know, so hyped when the last one ended. And then they kind of take it in a very like not real, because it still has that like absurd, you know, they're like Satanists kind of, but they look like Jimmy Seville. They, you know, worship Teletubbies, like, but then they go in a very like gory, sadistic, like evil direction with it that kind of took me aback. Like, I wasn't quite expecting that, so I did like that, but I get what you're saying about like it didn't have quite the same energy, and maybe they could have done a bit more with it. But yeah, I still overall enjoyed it. I think they did an interesting thing with it. So
to hop in on that, I was just thinking, like, you're saying the thing about the Jimmy Seville
as the
character's
authority
not
on the
going.
matter.
Yeah. Let's start with Jimmy, and I'm like sitting here like, I got some stuff cooking here, but yeah, well, the thing is, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the location they're in at the end of the last movie is like, it felt like a rural highway or something, like it was in the middle of nowhere.
Kind of,
yeah.
And this movie largely takes place in the middle of nowhere, like the same rural county near the Bone Temple. And if you remember the opening of the movie, and this is where when you're talking about missed opportunities or not going as over the top, the opening of the movie takes place in a closed down abandoned water park. And it feels and looks just like a scene out of Clockwork Orange, where you have these people looking for like ultra violence and, the sadistic ringleader sitting on top of a stage with cold, harsh lighting shooting through the windows. It was just like that scene from Clockwork Orange, visually speaking. So I was like, oh, wow, like this is already selling me and I'm already connecting dots to like what they're trying to evoke here. So I thought that was cool. But again, I'm like, where the hell is the water park in this post-apocalyptic rural countryside that they've spent the two movies in? Like, nitpick. But at the same time, I feel like there was thoughts and ideas there that probably just got warped and changed between the passing of the torch from the directors. Maybe I do agree. Like, it felt a lot less Power Ranger-y, probably for the better in some aspects. But like, for example, the one scene I can remember is when they're all called Jimmy, but it's like they have Jimmy subcategory, like Jiminette and Jiminy Cricket. I don't know, but the red tracksuit female Jimmy, she's kind of the closest thing to an ally to our not even our main character, the last movie's main character who's in this movie.
Yeah.
She does like a somersault roll and slits the throat of a zombie like nothing. I'm like, oh, okay. So there's the tie back. They all can still do Power Ranger stuff. They just choose not to. So again, these are just like kind of nitpicks or like exactly addressing what you guys are saying. Like, yeah, they kind of threw it all away. I'm like, 95% they kept in some corny stuff to that degree that I thought again was good and added to it. But yeah, once they start doing what was it? Was it charity? They called it communion charity. Yeah. Once they start doing charity and they start like skinning people alive in the barn, I was definitely like, oh yeah, I forgot they're sadistic. Because even that first scene where they're like with the family getting good old hospitality and all that, again, I was feeling very Clockwork Orange vibes, and probably because I just recently rewatched it over the Christmas break. But just the way that they kind of act and are so weird and off, and just again here to do like ultra violence to people.
Jack O'Connell's like energy kind of feels very much like
Alex from Clockwork Orange.
Alex.
Yeah. I would only remember that because I saw it like a business week ago. Otherwise, I would have forgotten it. Yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of like the highs and lows of like the Jimmy stuff for me personally. I think like largely if we're on the Jimmy stuff, because I think like you said earlier, the what you wanted more out of this movie is probably Jimmy related. I'd say there's like three main characters. Actually, I'd say four main characters. It's Jimmy and his gang. Ray Fiennes is the big one. The kid from the last movie, I wouldn't really count too much, but I'm going to say he's a main character. And then the alpha zombie becomes like a real character in this movie.
Samson.
And I actually love that. Samson. I almost said Samsung, but yeah, Samson really, really becomes a character. And I loved everything they did with him and Ray Fiennes. And like, I think like all that was really top tier. But yeah, the kid from the first movie takes a huge backseat. And the mystery and the coolness of Jack O'Connell and the Jimmy gang was pretty iconic, obviously. But yeah, ultimately the best scenes are when he has those moments with Ray Fiennes. Every other scene with the Jimmys and Jimmy is just kind of like generic even villain stuff, waiting to get to the more philosophical moments. And last thing I'll say is I really appreciated the not the divorced dad energy, but the child of divorce energy that Jimmy has, especially when talking to Ray Fiennes. He's like, finally, an older man figure I can be vulnerable to for guidance, because I haven't had that since I was 8, and my dad was leading the charge of zombies as he was infected. You know what I mean? So I love that. And even Ray Fiennes kind of like with the alpha, very single dad vibes. Ray Fiennes is just like daddy. He's giving all his dad energy to all these lost souls of the wasteland. So yeah, loved all that. Anyways,
I have to say, narratively speaking, and I guess we'll see where they go with the third one, but I was surprised that like presumably Jimmy is gonna be cooked, or like it's not super like final, like we don't see him for sure take the last breath, but like it's at the very least I'd say strongly implied, especially with the little jump scare at the very end of that.
If he's not, I'm mad about that jump scare.
Well, but to me, I was kind of shocked by that. And because if you think even to the last movie, like we open with his character, like the intro of that movie is him.
Which we only find out.
Right,
in this
exactly.
One, but although I know people
what do you mean
speculated.
we only find out at this one? Well, no, because they do say his name. They say his name. So, like they say, yeah, I'm 99% sure. I thought this on my second watch through. I could be wrong, but I'm 95% sure because when they put him in, like, stay in here, Jimmy, or whatever,
Okay.
and
I
then
gotta
you
watch it
see
again.
yeah, me too. And you see, but like again, so I think that happens at the beginning. You see the two
Yeah.
beats. Like where there's like it's carved into the skin of the guy hanging upside down and like spray paint, and then obviously the very
Well,
end.
you see his
So
name, yeah, but I guess it's
yeah.
doesn't fully come together until this one. You get the confirmation. He mentions his dad was a vicar and he hid in the church and all that, so it's like confirmed. But yeah.
Yeah, but my point being is that like I was surprised to see him basically taken out by the end of the second movie and after really one movie with him, just the way that like he was kind of like lingering. I would have expected, and again, he could be right. This could be a gripe that I'm like, well, when we talk about the third one, that it's not like unaddressed or something, or maybe like I feel like they're setting up, and I guess maybe to transition to that, I don't want to jump ahead, but speaking just to wrap this part up of the end, like with everything that happens with Samson. It's an interesting little setup here of where this could go in terms of bringing it back to your points, Brandon, about like the zombie, of it all, like where now seemingly there's a kind of person that can be immune, but still human enough. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to see how that will all kind of shake out. I feel like obviously that's going to be the main kind of component, I think, of the third. Yeah, exactly.
This is the third dangling thread the franchise has done. Like they had the ending of the movie you guys are skipping, the 28 weeks later. That ending has a potential immune cure person in it. But you could presume her helicopter got shot down. I've read all the Redditor headcanon. But anyways, and also that movie got retconned. Paris, France wasn't nuked like said in that movie. So that movie, I won't call that a dangling thread. But one thing again, like trying to keep it without like just diving straight to the craziness of the end. Speaking of the previous movie and again, like potential cures and solutions here, I was surprised we saw no Aaron Taylor Johnson as the dad, and also I guess the village with the baby, like the Alpha's baby didn't come back up one time in this movie, and I guess that means they had bigger plans for it. But part of me was like, oh, can't wait to see what comes of that. But yeah, the timeline from this movie being like legitimately like within days or a week or whatever of the last movie, like it feels like this is basically uh like one movie they split up logically. But yeah, it felt very crazy to have it so tight because it felt like I just basically picked up the same movie. You know what I mean? It felt like I paused at 2.5 hours in and I finished it like 2 hours the next day. So that's kind of a mini gripe, but yeah, I am excited to see where they go, which is how I felt the first time around. But to see them holding out and not giving us all the answers this movie, or like kind of what you said about Jack O'Connell, like it really feels like there's some stuff they're keeping for the next one. And the next one I kind of hope is not 24 hours after this movie ends. You know what I mean? Or I guess it could be because we'll talk about the ending later. I feel like we're pretty bad for being like intro thoughts. So what'd you think of the ending? And then somewhere around 45 minutes in the episode, we're like, hey, you remember that part 2/3 through? Oh yeah, that was good, wasn't it? You know what I mean? So I don't want to just like hop into crazy ending stuff, but yeah, I don't know where they're going to go with it. I guess is a big picture thought. I don't know where it's going to go. I hope they answer some stuff because I'm feeling like there's a lot of like revolutions left on the table.
Yeah, to me, this movie really feels like a transitional movie, like kind of bridging the first and the third.
Totally.
And it's a bit more, like you said, the zombies are like barely a part of it. There's a bit more like slower meditative stuff, everything with Ralph Fiennes and like kind of bonding with Samson and like introducing the idea of like a cure for zombieism. All of that stuff I found really interesting. So as far as transitional movies go, I think it was like fantastic.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like they're really just putting the pieces into place for the third movie. And that means we don't get answers. That kind of makes me feel like the Jimmy stuff isn't totally over. Like maybe that'll come back in some way. That's my like gut feeling right now, but who knows? Like, I also remember seeing like interviews with Danny Boyle after the first one where he's like, don't worry, the Jimmy stuff will like make sense. You'll know why it's like he's dressing like Jimmy Savile and all that. And it kind of is answered, but not like fully. Like it feels like we're still missing some of the lore.
Yeah.
So
well, I remember us talking about like, again, and this is like, I wish I knew more about like this decisions to swap directors and things like that, because like there was even like the way the first movie sets up the Power Ranger kind of concept, and like I feel like where Spike at the beginning of the movie as an actual kid, like he's 12 or whatever, and he leaves his Power Ranger at home literally before he goes out on the excursion, and then these guys show up at the end and like really represent, you know, kind of that like stuck in time. And there was like the Teletubby beat when they're in the house and like he makes her do the dance or whatever.
The Tubby dance, the Teletubby dance.
Yeah, exactly.
Enough Tubby time.
The Dipsy.
Yeah, the Dipsy do.
Oh, the Dipsy
whatever.
Dance. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like he said something when I got serious. He's like, enough Dipsy dancing. Like, and then that's when it switches up. And I was like, okay, it still like, has those moments.
Like, I thought there was just like sort of this interesting beat of like just getting stuck as a perpetual child, and that really didn't seem like it was ever flushed out here. It went down this satanic route that I think like for the movie's purpose like worked and everything, but this could be just more like stuff that because like it was such a interesting bit of the last movie that we spent a lot of time thinking about it and talking about it and whatnot. But yeah, it just felt like a lot of things just sort of got like a little left behind in that regard. And I think
I would argue,
which is interesting because Alex Garland wrote all these too. That's the other beat. So the writer's the same, but the directors are different.
I felt it was pretty thematically like tied in. In fact, I'd say it was probably the strongest thing, like tying it to the previous movie, with the visuals lacking and the main character being pretty much a different set of dudes this time around. You know, I think like the theming, again, back to the divorced dad bit, but like the theming of like fatherhood and like that I thought was pretty strong. Like like the last movie, as we agreed, it was like the boy kind of picking the father mentor he wanted between Ray Fiennes and his dad. This movie is Jack O'Connell picking that. Is it when he sees a great dad like Ray Fiennes who's giving him like grace and a good listener, as he says, he has an opportunity maybe to like see himself and see the error of the ways. He obviously doesn't because he's so committed to his own bit. But I thought like that was kind of this like beautiful moment where it's so understated that it's like this guy has been like the king of the Jimmys. I just realized I forgot I bought a tiara for this outfit. I'm so mad. But he's been like the king of the Jimmys, the Prince of Darkness or whatever, walking around with these Jimmys for so long. And they're all relatively similar in age or younger. I think Renata was saying they all were like younger and more impressionable. And that's why they fully believe this guy who's clearly not all there. But I think like there's kind of this thing there where he is a wayward role model or father figure to all these people, and Spike obviously sees that. He knows that from the jump, and he sees how this guy chooses to lead, and then compared to his lesson in the last movie from his actual dad, then Ray Fiennes being kind of a mentor figure. I think like the theming there of like the nurturing father or like guidance or like the faith elements, like I thought all that maybe wasn't as strongly tied together, but I felt like it was very strongly prominently on display. So I thought that was kind of what connected it. It's not so much about like the adolescence being left behind. If anything, like Jimmy's a foil to the main character from the last movie, somebody who never left the Power Rangers at home and decided to find a crazy lifestyle to continue being a Power Ranger, or
Well, I think you're overstating it a little bit and then underpointing my point. Like, because in that conversation, for example, it's never anything other than self-serving for Jimmy, and it's never like they never imply that he comes close to any positive reaction, because he's like, so we're either going to cut a deal or what was it? I'm going to stuff your intestines through your eyes or something like that. Like it was a very kind of dramatic push.
He says we're in a bind, and then Ray Fiennes goes, oh, my intestines through my mouth. That does sound like a bind. And then like a big audience laugh.
Right.
Cut to what
so like, I don't think like, yes, he was able to talk to him, but I don't think that was like, Like, I mean, it was there, I think, but I don't think it was implied that it was going. And I think, like, I think the pivot to this and pivot, like, it's not that he wasn't a Satanist, like, clearly the cross was upside down, like, that all was there. But I think it just felt like, and I'm like, I'm torn on this kind of like, it's just because, like, I guess I thought that there would be more exploration of, like, that idea, I guess, of these, like, what is kind of the mentality of this dude, other than, like, and that conversation felt like it was a point to get there, where it just felt like he was in La La Land and, like, is a Satanist, and the way he described his dad, and, like, I was listening because in that moment, it's not the way he talks about his real dad and then old Nick in the kind of interchanging ways, but you're like, he was leading the fire of the army and whatever. And then, like, then we know, like, his actual dad was, like, hiding in the church and then gets overwhelmed and, like, takes the sacrifice on and whatever else. And, like, we don't know what happens directly after that. But so, like, I don't know, like, I just thought there was, like, the pieces, like, it's not, to me, immature. Like, it's not immaturity. There's definitely components of that, the way he is so insecure as a leader, the moment they see old Nick, but it's Ray Fiennes, and he immediately is now insecure and, like, oh, like, you can just, it feels off and whatever. It's not to imply that he's like mature, has a complete coherent worldview, but it was really, like, even implied schizophrenia, like, I can hear the voices and all of this kind of thing. And so, like, I don't know, there was definitely lots going on, but yeah.
I think there's an interesting part of that relating to, like, memory too, like the way that people who grew up as this being their only reality, the way it, like, kind of warps and affects their memory of what is normal and what isn't. Like, there's that part of the conversation where Dr. Kelson is like, well, one, I think, really important side note, but related to this, is, like, he has records and he plays music every night. He still listens to music and art and has photos of the time before. Whereas, and I think that's what's, like, kind of keeping him tied to his own humanity. And, like, all of these people, young people who grew up, like, I think he was Jimmy was like 8 when everything happened, and his memories of things are clearly warped. Like, he's latched on to the Teletubbies and, like, specific things, but he has no real sense of, like, what before time was like. And I think you see that in his memory of, like, his dad and, like, what happened there that night. I just think it's really, really interesting. You see it with Samson too, when he's like, he gets these flashes of memories of being on a train, and, like, there's that interesting scene where he goes to the train and sits, and he's, like, remembering himself younger but also older, and I don't know. I think there's something very interesting there having to do with, like, history and remembering where you came from and who you are in order to retain your humanity.
Yeah, the ticket please scene was really great. Like, and like, to explain that is, like, Ray Fiennes spends a good chunk of the movie trying to morphine up the alpha zombie to gain his trust. They have all these cute moments where they're, like, watching the sunrise and sunset and dancing under the stars, and it's really sweet. It's like he's found companionship in this, like, oafish zombie that now trusts him from the best way to get any wild animal to trust you, to dose it with any knockout drug. So he's, like, coming there for his fix addictively, and then over time he kind of starts curing him with, like, some of the properties in his blow darts, realizing it's causing the psychosis of whatever the virus does to calm down. But yeah, the scene you're describing is when the experimental dose he does before the big climax, he ends up going to the train and he's remembering who he was. And he says one word earlier, which was moon. And that's right when he's about to euthanize him, which was a crazy scene too. And then when you see those flashbacks through his eyes, he's a little kid reading about the moon on the train he took from his small town. And then as an adult, presumably taking the same train, he gets on the same train. And surely enough, he remembers enough. And yeah, when he says the whole phrase, he remembers a girl asking for a ticket, and he goes, "No, I don't have a ticket." And it's like the alpha zombie who's, like, sitting there again, hanging dong, buff, ripped, literally cut, like, with arrows and wounds. And he's just like, "No, I don't have a ticket, thanks." oh, whoa, hold on. You know, he just gains consciousness again, and now he's fighting for his life because the zombies can tell he's not one of them. Like whatever so implying again the
Well, that
virus is
pivot was
gone.
so cool too,
So
right? Like
good,
where
yeah,
they're all standing there and they're kind of like looking at
Mm.
him like, what the fuck is this guy's
yeah,
deal? And then when he says the line, they're like, you know what? And they're like, yeah, I thought
yeah,
that
yeah.
was a neat little bit. But like
Excellent.
again, like they show the thing they do there from like a storytelling perspective is he gets hit with all of the ways to get infected, right? He's bitten,
Yeah,
they
blood,
spit the
bite.
blood in his face, like so, and then he is not. So like they're like again, it clearly sets up like an angle in there with that. And I do think it's interesting because I can't remember specifically. I don't remember if they say it in either of these movies, which like is probably for the better because none of these people should technically know that. But like how they called it the rage virus, and that like I love the shot at the beginning when he's the alpha and you see what he sees and it's like a creepy like monster and he rips it, but it's just a scared dude that he kills. But like, so I thought there was like right away I knew that, and I will say that was maybe like a note that I feel like I could have. I wonder if they knew that, and I don't know if they did, but like to have that be more also in the last movie, because I felt really annoyed just where again it's like you see the Matrix a little where we see that shot of him what he sees, and then Ray finds like, I wonder if these things look fucked up to you when you do it, and I was like,
What do you
it just
see,
felt like,
Samsung?
yeah, again back to the nitpick bit. I was like, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see like I just wish that if they
I
had
wondered
put
where
it
you
in
were
the
going to
last
land on
movie,
that
it would
because I
have
felt the
like
same
more
way.
organic. Because yes, it just had that. I'm like, oh, okay, like so I just kind of made me giggle in that sense of it. But like again, that was really, if that's like one of my bigger gripes overall, then that's not, I think
To
again is indicative to the whole thing.
to touch on that super quick too, like when you said like, they show him get every form of infection, be it the blood in the mouth and eyes, being bit by like tons of them, and just a total petri dish fight worth of possible infections. Again, what I like about that too is, and again, I know I'm the guy going back to hanging dong here, but as he's regaining his humanity, what's he wearing, guys? He's wearing pants. He's got like a loincloth. He's covering up for the first time, and that's when he gains his humanity back. The end of that scene where he's fighting for his life in that train, you show him walk out in the moonlight, soaked in blood, full
Mm-hmm.
pickle back out. And I'm like, oh no, he totally got reinfected, and all that work was for nothing because he's missing his pants. It's to symbolize he's gone backwards. And then again, the beauty of the end of the movie is he shows up and you don't even see him mouth the words. It's like over his shoulder, and you hear him say, was it, "Thank you, Dr. Kelser," and he picks him up and walks out. And yeah, I thought that was like, oh wow, okay, because again, like what you said, but for like the last 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever, after that point, I was definitely like, oh no, he's hanging dong again, he's back to being the alpha zombie. Oh,
They
you
do
can't,
kind of
they play
play
with you,
with your
right?
expectations when he
Yeah,
shows up, and because you first see him through Jimmy's eyes and he sees him as like
Yeah.
Satan with the
yeah,
horns and everything, which I fucking loved. We'll get to it, but the
yeah, he
scene
gets his
leading up
comeuppance,
to
like,
the crucifixion, oh, so good. But yeah, they kind of play with your expectations a little, and then
I
yeah,
want to
definitely.
say the high point for me, I adored the score and the soundtrack of the last movie. I thought it was great and like was my most listened piece. Like I think on Under, it's super disappointing because it won't get nominated, but it was my favorite, one of my favorites of last year. But to counter that, I felt like that was one aspect I was going in. I'm like, did they do the same thing? Like I had no idea. And this is like probably like one of the best movies for like super relevant and well integrated needle drops of great quality, by the way,
yeah,
like ever. Like it could feel cheap when it's like, remember this, and like again, even how that's like you said, kind of thematic of him like putting that on every night and listening to it, but also like just the scene where he's dancing and we can hear the real song, but we can still hear him kind of like offbeat a little bit,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
like
you're
singing
talking about the
it. And I
Metallica
like,
performance.
No. This is the Duran bit.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Like when he's
I was
with
say, there's a few
Samson.
scenes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it's
there's a lot of
Rio or whatever it was. But,
Rio, yeah. And he's like, high out of his mind. And he's kind of singing off key.
And quick on that, because I wanted to mention, because I'm trying to get in the habit of watching marketing retroactively, because I want to see like how it compares and just so
get
I can
into my mind.
No, retroactively after I've seen the movie, so I don't.
You're doing like a post-op on a dead body. You know, you're like, what did Brandon think going into this movie?
Just in case I bet need to see what Brandon was expecting going in.
You're like, I think the movie is really good. Then you watch the trailer and you go, oh no, Brandon's gonna hate the movie because now I know what he's going in with. You're like 500 IQ
to better understand my friend Brandon
to one up my arguments in the podcast.
But even in the poster, which we'll talk about as it gets to the the end, but I was really like concerned because they showed the scene where he goes up and like touches Samson, and they imply in the trailer that he hasn't darted him yet. And I was like, oh, I didn't love that beat got revealed, but I did think it was funny because he gets really close to him and then darts him. And then I did like that. I was like, oh, it's the drugs. Like he doesn't just become like a domesticated zombie in the strictest sense. It's more like it's the drugs.
Yeah, it sounded sarcastic, but that is a great way get him hooked on opiates.
Yeah.
Like that is a great way to do that exact thing. Like that was perfect. Well written story.
So logic. Brandon's just like, anyone, if I approach you, just drug me and I will become your best friend. But similarly on the poster shot, which like I don't know if you guys want to use this as the transition point into that, but a lot of conversation about being worried that like, did they just reveal in the poster that Ralph Fiennes becomes a zombie, which I didn't put a lot of thought into, but I was like, fuck, I hope not. And when I realized that even was him, because when I first saw the poster, I didn't clock that was him. Like I knew it was in his temple, but I'm like, oh, it looks like some bald guy, like whatever. So I was super worried that fuck, that better not be what actually is happening. And holy fuck, is that not at all what was happening? And I want to say, just as we build into this, so they talk about that scene where Jimmy and him are talking and they make about a deal with the devil. I immediately now realize what that scene was going to be. And I started giggling at that point of the movie because I was like, oh my God, he's going to pretend to be fucking Satan. And that's going to be the thing. So I was giggling at that part purely on expectation for the scene. And then the scene is so much fucking crazier than even I was like expecting at that point. And when he busts out, like he's going through his fucking music collection and pulls out Iron Maiden. And I was like, oh shit. And like that was because I've seen takes where people are like, this movie's so much less crazy and there's not enough crazy. I'm like, no, there's a lot of fun and crazy beats to be having here. It's not the level that like maybe the ending of the last one would set up, but you can't tell me in a movie where Ralph Fiennes in a temple of skull and bones doing a basic music video with fucking flame props and everything with Iron Maiden is not crazy enough for you.
And I'm pretty sure he dusted them with ketamine.
Oh yeah,
he drugged them with like a ketamine powder.
He drugs all the
drugs. He does basically a stripper pole routine on the literal bone temple, and you're telling me that wasn't enough for you? Get out of here! That's crazy.
I'm with you on that, dude. 100%.
I was like wild. You smiling ear to ear, having a blast. Like I was so thrilled. It was.
I think you and I looked at each other a couple times, like down the we were like, oh my God. No, it was friggin' amazing. And I like Ralph Fiennes, dude, all in. And I love that. I loved that so much.
Yeah, I'm going to miss him in number 3 because so the moment you were talking about earlier, the bit that you wanted to feel a bit more, that was his death, presumably?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I kind of had a similar... I think I got maybe a little misty eye. I think the scene where Samson says moon got me a little more than Kelson's death.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he's he's still in there. The humanity. But yeah, I do agree. Like, I feel like Kelson being such a big figure, especially in this movie, to have his death like not quite move me in the way I hoped, was like a little bit of a down, a bit of a underwhelming thing. But I don't know. I still think overall the movie was done very well.
Yeah. And I was kind of expecting that beat too, right? Because the movie, the last one, really, it's like really the very end, basically, of the movie where they have that emotional beat with Spike and his mom. And then we kind of transition like fairly quickly to the end of the movie. So I thought, even like time wise, like I thought maybe it would be like similarly structured. And then, yeah, I just kind of didn't really feel it. And I really hate when they get people. This is such a like movie beat, but I hate like they stab them in the stomach, like in an area where I'm like, presumably, you know, you have a bigger chance. Like, so I was kind of sitting there being like, oh, he could be okay. And then they're like, you're definitely not going to survive that. And I'm like, oh.
Yo, to be fair,
like,
same movie where a guy got stabbed in the stomach like 7 times in that barn scene and was still like able to like run away for a bit and fight back against the little girl, Jimmy. So it's
to
like,
be fair, she had a little nubby knife.
If you hadn't shown me all that hyper violence, the Ray Fiennes,
essential on me, dude.
if I didn't see all that like crazy violence at the start and be marinated for that, like the simple stomach stab, I was like, not that it was anticlimactic, but yeah, I was like, I feel like people have survived way worse in this franchise. So
I did like how in the very opening, Spike stabs the guy in the thigh, and he's like, fucking
the artery.
pussy, and then it's like, oh, you hit an artery, like you're fucked, buddy. Because like you hardly ever see that where someone like people get stabbed in movies all the time, and they're like, oh, it's fine, it didn't hit anything important. And this was just like he kind of gets him in the only way he can. He just jabs him and happens to hit an artery and fucking kill this guy.
I do find it funny, like another like couple little nitpicks is like I like how the Jimmys always die from monologuing, except for the one that got burned by the propane tank. Like the Jimmy girl's like, you picked me because I was a small woman. I'm going to show you. Gets completely domed. Or what do they say in the movie? They're like, a big fuck off hook to the back of the head. You know, like that was good. And then, but yeah, she dies that way. So does the guy at the start. And then Jimmy himself basically, you know, kind of starts monologuing and he also gets, you know, subdued. So it's like, yeah, it is kind of funny. It's like 3 for 3. Again, the only guy who doesn't really get it, is like when they're fighting themselves, and she's just like ratioing them with her Power Ranger skills that they forgot between movies. But yeah, I did like that quite a bit. And I was trying to think. I had another nitpick, but I got so hung up on a big fuck off hook that I could not remember.
I'll keep the thread going because I will say part of me, and then, like again, I don't know if this is because of the movie itself or just because of the era of, well, I feel like this is true of like movies of ever, but like, is Kelson for sure dead? That's the other beat that I'm not necessarily 100% sold on, because like that whole new component of the infection and all of that, like, is it like, I think the movie doesn't necessarily do, like, it's not an obvious like, oh, he's for sure not dead, but like I would lean more that I think he probably is, but like there was at least a little bit of him, I'm like, oh, like is he, so, or could he come back in some zombie form? Like, I don't know, but
I was wondering that too, like, oh, maybe he'll get zombie, because the zombies do kind of swarm the Bone Temple, right, to get I guess, unless Jack O'Connell was hallucinating that, I don't know. There's like some ambiguity, but like maybe, you know, now that Samson is cured, he'll like take up Dr. Kelson's work and like return the favor or something.
He was a biologist before the outbreak, taking the train to London every day. No, I think like on that note, my predictions for the next one to tie in this movie and all these, like what we're wondering about here, is I truly think, like, I think Jack O'Connell is dead / zombified, and I think we see him in the next movie leading the charge of zombies, like the true Prince of Darkness he always wanted to be. Thematically, like a throwaway gag, funny, fits the build, but they're not going to like, yeah. So after he survived all that brutality and then face eating, maybe he just limped off into the woods and saved himself. So I think Jack O'Connell, zombie, leading the charge. Maybe he becomes the new alpha because our alpha is gone. We don't know how the zombie animal kingdom works, but there's an absence of an alpha, and he has alpha male energy for sure, obviously. So I think he comes back as maybe a zombie or an alpha zombie leading the charge. I think that would be thematically kind of there. They've set that up potentially with some like the headcanon I have. But then secondly, Ray Fiennes absolutely dead. Cillian Murphy's back, and our characters come across him at the end of the movie, or vice versa. The whole next movie, my bet, guarantee, put money on it, $20. I would say they're like, my friend Dr. Kelson died. He's just 9 days walk over that hill. He's got all this research where he cured a zombie. I know this because he whispered something to me after the movie ended and then actually gave me his last breath and died. And I know all this stuff, and we should go on an epic journey back to the same set piece that you built in the last 2 movies and do that again for the third act so we can find the MacGuffin, aka his notes that he was shown writing throughout the whole movie. So you, Cillian Murphy, can be the guy that saves the world after being brought back out of retirement for the Avengers Endgame level cameo at the end of this movie. Whole theater reacted to that. Like the whole theater did like a big, like it felt like the most Marvel thing. I loved it too, but just knowing Shea, I wondered if you guys had a theater full of people going, that's the guy from the movie, as you pointed out on 2 series.
No, I really feel like there was not. We also went in an early, like, or a later afternoon show on Friday, so there wasn't a ton of people there, and like, yeah, there was no like Marvel fanfic reaction.
I had kind of like, I knew he was gonna make an appearance either in this one or the next one or both, but I had kind of like forgotten if it was for sure this one or whatever, so I wasn't totally expecting to see him. So I had kind of a, oh my god, there he is kind of moment, but like it was fun. It was good. I don't know. They do a really good job of like hyping you up for the next movie with these.
Yeah, they always end them in a way that sets the next one up nice, which is, I guess, it's like, again, almost episodic television, like a cliffhanger, like a nice tease to keep you hooked for the next one. But I will say, for my kind of thing going is, it wasn't clear to me, and again, I only saw it once. I'm going again tomorrow. But the jump scare zombie I thought was Samson again. So I wasn't sure 100% on that because it is, again, very quick and sudden. But what I'm curious, kind of tying to your thing, Brandon, is if that is the case, what happens if you get infected by Samson as like in his new state? So like, does that kind of give you some sort of like hybrid zombie-esque form for Jimmy to inhabit where he still talks and shit like that, but doesn't get attacked? And so that was where my brain went with it. I will just flag, though, that all of these dangling threads make me very... I will say I do trust Alex Garland particularly more as like on this writing. Like, he's demonstrated, I think, that he is capable for sure. But it feels like there's just a lot of dangling plot beats for this third one to really tie up, and I'm like, it's a feat. Like, I won't say I'm worried about it, but it's like you said, there's that whole other bit from the first movie of the town and the baby, like that all was completely not in this one. That all has to come back. The Samson Ray Fiennes component is still going to be there. Then you have Cillian coming back, so it's like there's a lot for this third movie. So if it's 28 years later, the 3-hour saga, I wouldn't be stunned just if they have so much to do. But I think that it is a beat that I'm kind of mildly concerned about, where I felt like this was just like, there's just going to be a lot happening, I think, in that next one.
What do you, instead of plot predictions, what do you think the title is going to be? 28 years later, Daddy's Home. Like, what do you like? You know, where do we go from here? They can't do Bone Temple again. Like this basically was just again, the first 28 years in this are the same Bone Temple set piece, beautiful set piece. But like I was joking about, they go back there in the third movie to find his notes to find a potential cure, and we spend 30 or more % of the movie in the Bone Temple. The title can't be Bone Temple. I was kind of confused about that this time around. I was like, didn't we already see the Bone Temple? Like, is it going to be 28 years? Memento Mori. Like, what's our subtitle?
No, I was actually as you were asking that, I was thinking of it. It wasn't Memento Mori because that's Remember Death. I was thinking it would be the other one where he says "Remember to Live" or something. Yeah, and I don't remember what the Latin word was, but I wonder, that seems like it would be a very thematic subtitle for the third movie, like Memento whatever. Remember, you must live because it's secure, and that. So I feel like that, but I have zero clue on that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I definitely want it to be. I definitely want it to be Daddy's Home, and it'll show Aaron Taylor Johnson getting a huge character arc, and then he has to 1v1 zombie Ray Fiennes to prove he's the better dad, like a drunk dad at a softball game. You know, that's my hopes. Yeah, God, I'm not going to bet $20 on that one.
I'm glad you're not a screenwriter on that.
I know.
Brandon's always like, I try to headcanon the ending as we're going. I'm the eighth brain screenwriter, and you're like, dude, I want it to be called 20. That you could do a parody flick called 28 Years Later, Daddy's Home, and I feel like there's a good setup. Like, I feel like, you'd be in one of those like early 2000s parody movie vibes. That fits a little better there, I think.
I do like that dynamic on this podcast where I'm like, I'll say some shit like that, being like, yeah, Daddy's Home, and it'll be like a crazy bender, and then like earlier I'll be like, yeah, I really like the false tone collapse where you find Jimmy relating and emoting to Ray Fiennes because he's not outwardly like that amongst other people due to his circumstances and the character. Meanwhile, I totally am like, let's do that up. So that definitely a favorite scene. But I'm trying to think before we close out. I'm trying to think there for like something I should have said in the like semi-spoilery half of the video, like, you know, that transitional part where people are still listening. It's not a big spoiler, but I was doing the math and I could only count maybe 1 or 2 people that died from zombies in this zombie movie. Like the body counts in this for zombie versus people, 1 or 2. It's definitely the alpha ripping that guy's spine out when he sees him in the woods like that.
Yeah.
And then
both of them were like random dudes.
Random dudes.
Random people. We never.
And then that random dude becomes a zombie, and he's confirmed, I think, unless I'm not remembering right, I think he's the only zombie killed by human in this movie. She, you know, like where she does the somersault barrel roll kind of thing and slits his throat. So it's one zombie killed by humans.
No,
in
they
the zombie
kill one when
movie.
they leave the pool too.
Oh,
One of the Jimmy's branches
on
off
and
out. Kills one.
Oh yeah. And then in the woods too, when he's getting attacked by the other Jimmy member. So I guess there's 3 zombies killed.
And what do we count Samson v zombie kills? Who would those count?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I would call it zombie v zombie, but I guess technically the whole point is he does gain his humanity. So if you include that. If you include that, then it's restored to a good ratio. Because typically, like think of it like Dawn of the Dead. It's like there's 10 survivors and most of them are picked off by the end. But throughout the whole movie, you see them mowing down hordes of zombies. So it's like a 1 to 10 ratio. And because only like 2 people were killed or 1 person was killed by a zombie, really, as long as Samson killed at least 8 people plus the other 2 are established, that's still a 10 to 1 zombie to human death ratio. But again, in my mind, zombie v zombie, because he was hanging dong, so therefore he was still under the influence of
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, hanging dong, Renata and I left, and I was like, I got a redemption arc, you know, after we saw Avatar, and all I could talk about was how over-sexualized the Na'vis were. Renata was like, I really like all the equal opportunity nudity in this movie. All the men are like ripped and nude. Like Ray Fiennes is in great shape for a man his age, and he does hang dong a little bit, you know? And she's like, I feel like we've been watching a lot of other movies lately, and like from the early 2000s especially, where it's like, oh, we're gonna do some violence towards, or again, Clockwork Orange. That's a great example. Violence towards women, and they're fully topless, getting like totally given the old in and out, as they would say. You know, like it's nice to see ultra violence happening towards shirtless men for once, because I counted only 1 pair of breasts and they were skinned alive, so it doesn't really count.
I know. I feel like you just completely undercut your own point. Where you're like, and there was boobs, but they were skinned, so they don't really count.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, you never saw an areola on a woman, but on the men you saw nipples frequently. So therefore, there was no exploitative nudity towards women. It was a lot more based towards the men, which I think is a welcome change.
Brandon a custom shirt that says "Senior Nudity Correspondent."
Yeah,
that's definitely
or equal opportunity cinema nudist. But that also sounds like what is that called, the Cinema d'Amour or whatever, like a place you go to get nude in the cinema.
yeah, different energies a little bit, but no, I think, I don't know, like, I'm really interested. I always like the bit that always makes me laugh when I watch even movies like this, or it's like to do with The Witcher, but like Ty always makes the caricature joke of like when you're playing The Witcher and he's a monster hunter, but the whole bit in The Witcher is that like sometimes humans are monsters too. And I just like, I kept thinking that beat like in this case too, where it's like, yeah, it's a zombie world, but sometimes, Brandon, humans can be monsters too. And so like, it's definitely, I expect the zombie thing to be much more prominent again in this next one, because I do think this cure route that they're kind of pursuing, like, again, I don't see a pathway, but
at no point
I'm
in this
not a
movie
writer, so
was I concerned someone was going to get infected, which is like a big tension thing. And especially in the first movie, when there are those iPhone shots through like the broken glass showing the blood dripping down, which is something that in other movies, like as soon as you see blood on the screen dripping somewhere, you're like, oh no, that will immediately ruin someone's life, Where here, I was like, at no point was I worried someone's getting infected other than Samson.
Speaking of dangling threads, the pregnant girl also survived and ran off somewhere. No, I would just like, because you were talking about how they're going to tie everything in. I was like, oh, that's yet another like thread that will probably tie in somehow. Like I don't know. I imagine she'll make an appearance again, but maybe not.
Speaking of that too, did you guys think she was gonna? Did you guys think she was gonna like take the kid? And like I thought that's where the movie was gonna go. And then it was so anticlimactic. She punches him in the gut. That was it. Like she just punches him in the gut.
I knew 1,000% that was not going.
That was not going to happen
for him. I was glad it was just a gut punch, because I thought it would have been a little more violent. But like it was weird. That's another one where it felt like she'll probably get like or not at all, right? But I was like, they just lingered on her too long, and I thought like it was super crazy when they're like, she just sat through and watched her whole, like, whether it's friends, family, hybrids, just get skinned the whole time. Like, dude, I probably would have tried to dip out at a certain point. Either I'm going in there to die. I don't think I'd just sit there and like, because she's still like looking through the chair the whole. I'm like, at least look away, dude. Like, what are you doing to yourself?
Personally, I definitely was kind of like, well, I would probably stay right where I was. They had no idea she was there. They thought she ran off the compound and sent that kid after her, So I'm like, if I was a pregnant woman in the zombie apocalypse, what I would have done in that scene is just hunker down. And then once they leave, relock the doors and just hope to God nobody comes by, and just don't go in the barn for a while because it's a little traumatic.
To be fair, I think that was probably going to be her plan, but then her boyfriend or whatever was about to die, so she was like,
her baby
fuck
daddy.
it. There's a fuck off hook right next to me. I'm gonna do
a big
something.
fuck off hook.
I have to say, another kind of form complaint about that was I fucking hated the way that sequence
shot
evolved.
it?
Like, it's such, well, not even necessarily how they shot it, but it was how it was stitched together. Like, so the hook comes down, kills her, like when we see the POV shot from the guy underneath her, and it's clear that she just got killed, but I felt like that went on for like 30 seconds or something, like dramatically
and none
long.
of the other Jimmys reacted,
and no one reacted until they cut away, and they're like, what the
also
that was
like
super minor, but
in the POV shot, we don't see the hook. Like, you know, there's some ambiguity, even though we just saw her see the hook. We kind of know what happened. And then when it cuts to the wide shot, the hook is like protruding from the top of her head. So it's like,
that was really hard to hide that logically, for sure. There's no way.
It was just a form question where I was just kind of like super annoyed that she got to like do this slow monologue for 30 seconds or whatever it was for no one to react in the world. Like,
well, even the other Jimmys, like, you think they definitely would have been like, oh, what's this then? You know what I mean? And like, also, the pregnant lady, again, I say this word almost every episode, was just aura farming at the top. She threw it, hits her. We're lingering on her reaction from the POV for, like, again, it felt like 30 seconds, even if it was 15 uninterrupted seconds. They would have been like, oh, there she is, get her. You know, but instead it's like, what's all this then? Get her, you know. It was like, okay, there we go.
And
Power
then
Rangers.
Buddy had time to crawl away and grab, like, it was a comical, like, it was just a case of like, whether it's writing or both, where it's just like, oh, we had to just throw things as obstacles. But like, like it's the timing of it is like, theoretically, if she's sitting there monologuing, was she standing up there for like 30 seconds, just like, yeah, that was me, dude. It's like, what are we doing? So when it cut away, like, I laughed at that part because I'm like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, like, also, like, they're building suspense for what? It's like, we didn't really care about that guy all that much, you know? Like, it was like, did she really stab the guy we met 5 minutes ago? You know what I mean? I think this would have been a better movie, fundamentally speaking, like, as if I'm like the you know, end all be all of how to make a movie. But like, if it was a shot where she got smoked by the hook, and like, say, you know, it was an iPhone rigged to like the hook's like wire system or whatever that, like, you know, skewers him like Final Destination style. Like, they should have just gone fast and crazy to interject some energy, because it was becoming a very slow, pensively, like, oh, the horror. And then when they do that comedic beat of like, she threw a big fuck off hook, you know, like, it was just like, comedic after suspense, where none of it was super earned. Again, it was a great sequence overall. Like, once, you know, he sets them on fire, like, that's when the craziness happens. But I think they should have just started that with like the surprise of like, she totally got skewered and it was a fast thing that happened. They were all like, Jesus Christ. And then she's up there running away or something. I don't know. Very, very nitpicky. But yeah, I definitely also clocked that, being like, I remember thinking, okay, let's get to the reveal. Like, clearly she's been stabbed in the stomach, maybe. And then when it reveals it's the big fuck off hook, I was like, oh, okay, that's fun. Thanks for having fun. You know, like,
if anything, I think it would have been more effective if they had like just shown the hook, shown her getting hooked, and then made where and who the hook came from more of the surprise. Like, and then show the, you know, pregnant lady up there, you know, whatever, I don't know,
like, plausibly,
but
it's
anyway,
like, was it Spike that stepped up? Was it, you know, the other chick? And it's like, oh no, it was the pregnant lady that, you know, was in the rafters. But also great aim for her too, like, to like, it wasn't on a pulley system,
positioned to get it right in the
I was gonna say, because I know we got to wrap it up, I did want to touch, speaking of wrapping it up, I did think too, when we talk about like that big set piece, we laugh at the big set piece with like the big like Iron Maiden song and all that. The scene where he's finally addressing them and talking down to them as like old Nick, and then he's like, you know, tell me more commandments, you know, like that. I was wondering, because like 85-90% of the runtime, Spike and the Doctor have not talked to each other, so I kept wondering the whole movie, how is that going to play out, you know? Did you guys expect him to fully pivot on Jimmy in that moment, or did you think he was gonna stall for time, like, I command you to leave me the child to learn my ways and come back to you at another time, you know what I mean? I didn't think he was gonna be like, my last commandment is to crucify you like Christ because you're the Antichrist. Like, that was smart, but I didn't see that coming at all. Like, I was like, and when it happened, I'm like, they're wrapping up way too quickly now. It's like the movie's over now.
I did think he seemingly dialed that to 12 pretty, like, significantly. Like, I was like, oh, like, they're not, like, he's not just like, you know, like, I don't know what you could have done, but like, again, it did feel like a little bit of a thing to like, make the stakes very high, so then you can have the reaction be very significant. And so I was kind of like, I was surprised when he was like, oh, you're gonna I was like, oh, okay, like we're going
I
there.
also thought maybe like he would be like, oh, leave this one for me and I'll,
Yeah,
whatever. Just try to, just try to save Spike. But I love that they did it, that he did it the way he did, because you can kind of see it in the scene. Like Ralph Fiennes is so good. His like expression when he realizes like, oh, this man is like genuinely like gonna fuck a lot of people up. He's gonna be a bad influence. He's gonna kill a lot of people, torture them, whatever. It dawns on him that this isn't just like, he's not just putting on some theatrics for like a little cult of teenagers. It's like, these are bad people. He's a bad man. What have I done? And then he kind of recognizes Spike, and I think that's what just sort of like sends him over the edge. Like, I need to do something about this. I can't.
And like
leave Spike
it
with
makes
him,
sense.
but yeah, completely.
Like it makes sense because he knows like the group is waffling on him. So that's the like, so it makes sense that he's well then, like I will tell them to cruise, because it's plausible that it could happen. It's not, it doesn't just seem like, oh, my group super loves me and all of a sudden they're going to turn on me. Like, no, he tells them we're here because you're going to tell them this to reaffirm my power, basically. And so for him to use that against him, like it all made sense. But yeah, I did feel like, I'm like, oh, this is a sharp escalation. But they did, like you said, like the moments where he's like, because he just says like, oh, continue your work or something like that. And then that's when Jimmy monologues like, oh, you mean cutting people? Like, and he just like lays out all the horrible things they do. And he's like,
because he even says like, give people charity in your name. And he's like, he's like, so you mean cutting their flesh from head to toe? And he's like,
and Ray Fiennes is like, wait, what am I co-signing here? I didn't quite see the con.
You see the gears turning. Yeah, you see the gears turning. It makes sense, but I think like compared to like scenes earlier where they had no problem holding the camera on like these beautiful moments between the Doctor and like Sam between between him and the Alpha Zombie, all that, like I really felt like, when the ending's happening and that moment was kind of de-escalating, and then without like a musical cue either, he's just like very much quickly is like, oh no, we're going to turn on you now. He's like, oh, the movie's ending. I was wondering how they're going to get to the end, because this felt like I could live in this scene or this movie for a long time. Like I was really enjoying it, that I never felt like get to the end. But when that happened, I was like, oh, we're ending it now. The last 10 minutes are upon us probably. Like, and sure enough, it was. So it didn't bother me that much, but I wonder if you guys also noticed it or. But yeah, no, I'm glad you guys did, because at first I'm like, am I being nitpicky again? Like I swear I didn't have to go to the bathroom or anything, but it definitely felt like a hard pivot in tone and pacing.
It was like a sudden escalation, which like I said, I would have probably like guessed something more so, because I was just like, oh yeah, he's going for it. And like I just, again, the sloppiness, it's like, it's so funny because you see movies where people will get stabbed right here and they're like, oh, I just missed my heart by half an inch, so I'm totally okay. And then he's like, well, if he was the devil, could I do this or whatever? And he sticks him. And so, again, like it just like those two beats, I think in quick succession, I think partly contributed to the emotionality of the scene, where because it felt like a sudden, like because the stakes were remarkably low until they became kind of remarkably high. And then you were like, oh, okay. And then like, again, the stick to the gut where it's like, I mean, definitely wouldn't be good. And it's, again, like, I have no idea. I'm not an expert that for sure would take you out. But in cinematic senses, it just seems like if you want it to be an obvious kill shot, you put that somewhere else and things like that. So I think like, because the whole time I'm kind of like, is he not? And like, you just, even if, again, it's not the movie specifically fault, and it's just movies in general where they're like, so often we just undermine deaths that either they didn't happen, or ones where it's like so obvious the person is dead and then they're like, but they're back. So just as an audience member, I feel like we're trained to just really kind of be skeptical. So you need to be more, I think, certain in those beats as well. So, but again,
especially
who knows?
Because you do see Jack O'Connell get stabbed almost identically in a similar spot, like one after another, right? Like he stabs him and then spikes the one that I'm pretty sure gets him in like the ribs or something. And then he's like, oh, and then he's still alive enough to be crucified. And, again, just kind of like enjoy the scenery for a while, where Ray Fiennes at a much more rapid, I mean, he's older obviously, but he's bowing out way quicker than Jack O'Connell after enduring considerably more. And then again, we saw people endure considerably more earlier, but I get that. Definitely.
They had to get the Christ imagery in there.
Yeah. I do love, like, again, all the last thing I could say is like when the scene happened, with the big musical, like, needle drop, and he's doing all the performance stuff and he's coming out of the bones and stuff. I was so into it. It was so metal. Part of me did think, like, I wonder how people will compare this to, like, Eddie Munson from Stranger Things season 4 doing like Ride the Lightning by Metallica.
No one will
on the
do
Upside
that.
Down. I wondered if anybody, not me, obviously, I didn't think of that at all. But yeah, because like that's like Stranger Things has been really big recently. But yeah, no, other than that, solid. Love the pyrotechnics. Like, I can't believe he committed so much. Like, Ray Fiennes is such a stage man in like real life and the movie. Like the fact that he thought I had to even have like those like ember canisters on the stick to then do like that, like a Maui like haka kind of like dance, he was doing whatever that was. Like, it was unreal. I was like, I fully believed. And also like my girlfriend was like, why is everybody in the apocalypse so ripped? Like, Ray Fiennes and that random like guy on the farm who's getting tortured and stuff is like, oh, these men are ripped. And I was like, well, yeah, because like they're eating pescatarian diet, like like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
And she's like, no, shredded in the apocalypse.
Yeah, all he's doing is like building bone towers and like stripping flesh off bones
and moving
all
corpses
day. That's
across fields.
Yeah, moving corpses. He's lifting.
She said, she's like, I agree with you, but to get the macros to have that much like size and definition, you're not getting protein like that out there in the wild. And so I was like, oh, look at you objectifying men's bodies now. Well, look at that,
Oh,
so that was my 180
God.
on her. But she saw the biggest takeout for her in the movie was the men being too muscular, not like lean, but muscular, because like, again, where's your protein? You don't have whey powder out in, rural Ireland or whatever, so anyways.
I want to, speaking of Jimmy and then Brandon and your phenomenal costume work and your, let's call it, slightly less than adequate accent work, but you look the part, and that's the important part. I will say these last two roles with Jack O'Connell, like, he is entering a pantheon for me. He's at the doorstep. I wouldn't quite say he's walked through, because I need more of these weird, batshit, high energy kind of roles from him. But between this and Sinners, dude is like, could be one of my favorite working actors if he keeps this kind of streak alive.
I've been a fan of his since I was like 16.
Because you shouted him out before we saw Sinners. You're like, I'm really excited about this guy.
He was in Skins, British teen series that I was like obsessed with as a teenager. And he was so good in that. And I was like, this guy's going places. So once he started getting more like mainstream Hollywood roles, I was like very excited. And now that he's like getting these like really juicy, like over the top villain roles, I'm like even more happy. I think it suits him very well. He just has that energy.
My dream project right now, and it's not like I don't want a Face Off remake, but I'm talking about like Face Off in the sense of like two very like prominent main characters combating, but I want a Jack O'Connell, Nick Cage heavy movie where they're going like in the paint, dude. I would absolutely like, I love him in this, like genuinely phenomenal. And I think it contributes to the desire for me to have wanted a bit more. Like, I just felt like I could have, like, if he was the full on main character for this movie and we spent a whole movie with him, just from his energy, I could have stayed with him for so much. And so yeah, like, again, I'm hoping that there is some weird zombie canon thing that we can do, because I don't want this to be the end of him in this trilogy here, because like, yeah, he is absolutely phenomenal. And I hope between these two movies just to see way more of that going forward, because it's great.
Well, you might not have him, but you do have me. So as the only Jimmy left standing on the podcast. If we've said all of our piece and we've given charity to this movie, torn a strip of flesh off it, so to speak, I would say I can leave us with some commandments. And specifically movie theater wise, I gotta say, when I think of this franchise now, when I think of zombies and like ultra violent, like skinning people, and that great theme, as you said, like sometimes people are the real monsters. All that I'm always going to associate with the strong, pungent smell of blueberry raspberry vape clouds. Somebody in my theater vaped the whole thing out. I was at a VIP theater. Etiquette was a little bit mixed. It usually isn't VIP because people were like, yeah, I'm talking to a waiter who's taking my $80 order for nachos 35 minutes into the movie. Of course I'm allowed to talk and vape and be on my phone. VIP is a mixed bag for me, but some asshole in my theater was totally vaping the whole thing. I looked around all the time. I could tell there was like a slight bit of haze filling the room. And it was a big theater. So, but yeah, from like 15 minutes in to like the credits even, I was like, it was so pungent. Like, for me, I'm not sensitive at all. And I was like, whatever, it's annoying. But my girlfriend who was like, eyes watering, be like, somebody vaping in here. Like she could not see the screen with her eyes so bloodshot. She was just like, yeah. So at the end of the movie, I remember thinking like, yeah, my commandment is if you vape in the theater, I will rip your skull and spine out and beat you with it, you fuck. So yeah, please don't vape in the Cineplex Queensway VIP on Friday nights at 7:00 for the 7:00 show times of, the 28 years franchise that comes out next, because I will assault you in the theater. Thank you very much.